Welcome to Preventing Brand Slaughter, your go-to show for discovering authentic, leading-edge ways to drive employee retention, elevate customer experience, and dominate marketing and sales targets without unknowingly killing your own brand. Tune in to lighthearted, transparent conversations featuring today's leading industry experts and entrepreneurs, breaking down stories of screw-ups, successes, and nuggets of wisdom every business owner or leader should know at heart. Let's get this show started with your hosts, Eric Sims and John Giuliano.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Preventing Brand Slaughter, the show dedicated to helping people stop the number one silent killer of businesses out there in the world today, and that is brand slaughter, the act of knowingly or unknowingly doing something with your talent, your techniques, or your technology that actually kills your own brand. Today, we're super excited to have Dave Fulk on the show. Dave's a serial entrepreneur and most recently, the owner and CEO of Reputation Rhino, an online reputation company that is blowing the doors off the industry and changing the way people view online content and reputation management. So stay tuned. Here's Dave. Awesome. Welcome to the show. We have Dave Fulk with Reputation Rhino with us today. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, Eric. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man, this is going to be, I think it's going to be a great show. I mean, John, you know, I've known Dave for several years and we're actually somewhat neighbors, literally pretty close by. And, you know, I've seen him, he's a serial entrepreneur. So it's not like he has one business, but when I started thinking about what we were doing with brand slaughter, and what brand slaughter is all about, being that, you know, it's this thing where we feel like it's a silent killer of most businesses out there. And or the number one killer of silent killer of businesses out there, and it's impacting brands. And a lot of times the only reason you find out is when it's too late, you know, and you've done something with your talent or your techniques or your technology that, you know, it's all of a sudden it's destroying your brand. Well, Dave has started a company and it's hyper successful now called Reputation Rhino. And Reputation Rhino's, I mean, from my understanding, its sole purpose is to help brands protect themselves and protect that valuable asset and that intellectual property called their brand. So Dave, we're going to get into that today, but just before we do that, I kind of wanted you to just kind of back up and maybe just share a little bit about, you know, who you are, where you're from, a little background on you.
Yeah, man. As you kind of mentioned, serial entrepreneur, you know, I'm a seasoned executive, investor, entrepreneur, CEO. You know, kind of my superpowers are being hyper-focused on creating the right solutions and building dream teams to, you know, get the job done. But one of the things, you know, I've specialized in over the last few years is acquiring existing cash flowing businesses. And I look at future trends of what's coming, right, in areas that a lot of people miss. And, you know, one of those areas is brand. One of those areas is online reputation management. And I didn't actually start the company. I acquired the company because of that. So we acquired Reputation Rhino about 2 years ago, but it's it's about a 12, 13-year-old company at this point, but we saw kind of where it was going. So yeah, I'm a skilled operator in a lot of different areas, but because of the need for a personal brand and the conversation that you guys are having right here on Brand Slaughter is the reason I stepped in. I'm involved in multiple businesses, but I stepped in this one as the CEO because it was a big opportunity for us.
That's cool. And I know you've got some other partners in the business or some other people connected to the business that some people may have heard of. And I don't know if you want to share about any, like who's working with you on this thing. So I think it's kind of cool who you've been able to wrangle in on this to really, you know, build something that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're all about the animals over here. So we got sharks and rhinos, you know. So one of the partners in the company is the original shark from Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington. So a little unknown fact is a few years ago, he was involved in a deal and woke up and found himself on the front page of TMZ in a lawsuit. And they've since taken care of that and settled it. But, you know, you've talked about a guy who had, you mentioned it, helping people and protect their brand. Talking about a guy who had 3-4 decades, not years, 3 to 4 decades of building a brand and having just a massive amount of success. You know, everybody's heard of the products that he invented. He freaking invented the infomercial, right? We all know about that. Yeah. But this one thing that really didn't involve him, but he was just named in the lawsuit, all of a sudden his reputation's being tarnished. He has guys pulling out of deals. He was actually, when it broke, he was at an event where he was supposed to speak on stage and they pulled him from the speaker lineup because of it.
Oh, wow.
he ended up working with our company and we got it all fixed for him. Now it's buried. It doesn't exist. We've kind of reestablished him as the amazing entrepreneur that he is and the reputation that he should have. But that just goes to show either you're controlling the narrative or Google is.
Yeah. Well, we all know that's the dangerous piece today is that, when you look at any of the platforms that are out there, in a lot of ways, it's good. People are able to have a voice and people are able to voice concerns on social media or on other platforms that are out there and give reviews. And that's all positive. But when you're the victim of an attack or of a story that's not true or of someone maliciously going after you, being able to defend yourself adequately and accurately becomes of the utmost importance. Because to your point, John and I have experienced this even with LEC, get a couple bad reviews and all of a sudden somebody brings it up and you're like, well, that's not even true. That didn't even have, there's nothing about this that was even true. But now you find yourself in an important meeting or at an event, and that's when it gets thrown in your face because there was nothing proactively controlling the narrative on that. So maybe share a little bit with us about what y'all's approach is. How do you guys do this? And if you can share a little bit of the secret sauce, great. If you can, I understand.
Yeah. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And because there's some people that maybe this hasn't happened to yet, and they've got to understand, oh, that'll never happen to me. Right. Oh, Kevin Harrington, I'll never be there. People have to understand the context of how people are viewing businesses and individuals these days. There are 5.6 billion with a B searches on Google per day, right? That's like 63,000 every second. It's insane. In the last 3 years, there's been a 617 increase in the amount of people that are going online to Google and Facebook to leave reviews. People trust, you mentioned it, people left a bad review. Well, because it's online, they believe it, Eric, whether it's true or not. Yep. 95% of people believe reviews online as much as a recommendation from a trusted family member, right? If my mom told me to go eat at this restaurant because it's good, I'm going to believe her as much as I read a review online. That's the scary part, right? 78% of people look up information online before they decide who they want to work with, whether it's a business or an individual. And the scarier part of that, here's the craziest part, Eric. 74% of people have already decided who they're most likely going to do business with based about the information that they find about somebody online or the information they didn't find about somebody online.
Yeah.
So as a business owner, call centers and what it's always speed to lead and generating leads. Well, now what people are finding out about you online affects your ability to even generate leads, right? Yeah. The whole conversation is changing.
Yeah. That's pretty,
it's statistics and facts like that is one of the main reasons we look to acquire Repetition Rhino, because it's how the consumers, are basically everything's online. I like to say the handshake has been replaced by the Google search. So, I grew up in the Midwest. I was a Midwest boy with Midwest values, and you shook somebody's hand, you looked them in the eye. That just doesn't exist anymore, right? We've become a digital society, instant gratification. We want everything now, and we want to find it online. We want it at our fingertips. And then you start looking at how AI is changing and making that possible. How we consume information is completely different. And it's nuts. So Reputation Rhino, there's people come to us in three areas. One, they're looking to build a brand, right? They're a ghost. They don't have anything out there about them online, which is just as bad as almost having a negative review. Mm-hmm. Two, there's somebody like the Kevin story that I talked about. He has a brand, but he wants to protect it. Or three, there was some sort of negative issue. There was some sort of negative press, video, something like that. Somebody did something stupid, made a mistake, and wants to work past that. And we work to remove or suppress that and then rebuild them up as an individual. So we work with both individuals and brands, right? Companies. And one of the biggest things is online reputation management has been used for years from hedge fund guys and large Fortune 500 companies. Like, it's just part of their marketing budget.
Right.
But it's never been very accessible for the everyday professional, the doctors, the lawyers, the small to medium businesses, the entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And that's where we really specialize in. Is, don't get me wrong, we have plenty of corporations that make $4 or $5 billion a year that are clients of ours. But we also have the ability to do, work for that everyday entrepreneur, that growing a small to medium business, or that professional, that doctor, that lawyer, that orthodontist, right? The stay-at-home mom wants to know who they're taking their kid to get their braces on.
Yeah. So it sounds like if I'm just thinking through this, like, in the before this age of online reputation, right? And to your point where it's like, hey, only the big boys had access to some of this online stuff. But when you had fires, like, there was the part where you had to have this whole approach of like, I'm going to try to build a brand. And that was difficult enough as it was. And then when you had fires, you really had to go out and like hire a PR firm, right? To like do these massive, and it sounds like this is really replacing. You may still want to get a PR person, but it sounds like this becomes the core competency that you leverage, to your point, in building and protecting, so that if you do have something, you're not having to hunt something down and go do 900 newspaper releases or whatever it is like you did in the old days. Yeah. Now you've got, to your point, you can control the narrative globally, and have that. I mean, can you talk through that a little bit? Am I off base there? Is that kind of where?
No. You're totally on base, because even though online reputation management has been around over a decade, it's still a very new term to a lot of people. A lot of people don't go, "What is that? What do you mean?" And they go, "Oh, you're a PR firm, right?" And I'm like, "Well, not exactly, right?" So here's the most basic element that I can explain. Marketing is what you say about yourself. Branding is what somebody says about you after you've left the room. We help you create a brand. PR is marketing, right? You're standing at the rooftop with a megaphone screaming out whatever they want to hear. It's a one instance. They place it online and then it goes away and it eventually dies. It doesn't help control the narrative. It controls the narrative in a Polaroid snapshot of time. So online reputation management is really a combination of 5 things. And that is PR, content management, digital marketing, SEO, backlinking, and legal, right? It's those 5 things combined in certain elements that create what actual online reputation management is. So PR is part of a strategy, but it's only one part of the strategy of online reputation.
Okay, that's cool. John, I don't know if I interrupted you. Did you have a question? I think you started to say something.
Yeah. So Dave, I mean, obviously you've touched a lot of businesses. You've been involved with many different entrepreneurs over the years. In your experience, are you just, and I'm not trying to, I guess the most direct way of asking the question is, are you just adding clean water to the dirty water? Or is there more of a methodology to somebody who has something blow up on TMZ? I guess what's your strategy to try to mitigate that downwind negative traffic?
Well, John, I'm going to give you the legal definition of what it takes, some lawyers 6-7 years to get. And that goes, it depends, right? And it depends on what the scenario is. How bad is it? Is it ongoing? Was it a one-time thing? Is it going to be something around for 5 years? They truly just a complete dirtbag, and we don't ever want to work with them anyway. Right. What we do sometimes is a magnifying glass, right? It's going to magnify the individual. And if that individual is looking to retain our services to continue lying, cheating, and stealing people, they're probably not a good fit for us anyway, right? We just can't help you. We take a stance. We don't want to help you, right? Yeah. But if somebody truly had a mistake in their life or had an issue or got caught up in something that like it was completely false, or the narrative was just off, we're going to help you come in. We're going to try and remove as much of that. That's why the legal aspect is so important, right? Having the lawyer address those things. And we're going to remove what's removable from online, either through our works or our legal works. And then the remaining stuff that's there, we're going to try and suppress, right? Google has infinite number of pages. Most people just don't go past page 1, right? There's 10 things that pop up on page 1, 10 on page 2, 10 on page 3. Our goal is to get that negative stuff suppressed and pushed so far down in Google. Is it still there? Sure. Somebody's just going to have to search really hard to find it. Yeah. We want to control the narrative of who you are now, right? Highlight your personal and professional accomplishments. Online now. We want to control those 10 search elements. When somebody goes into that search bar and types your name in or your company name in, the 10 things that pop up, we want to make sure that those are positive and highlight you in a professional, positive way.
Perfect.
That's cool. Do you, when you're looking at what and kind of under the flag of like the preventing brand slaughter piece, right? Where it's like, we know companies are doing stuff that either they don't know, and they still, they're screwing up their brand, or maybe they do know and they just don't care. But John and I prefer to think most of this stuff, most people open a company and they don't do things on purpose to ruin their brand, right? So when you're looking at what's being done today and what you guys are coming across, is there like a top three, like kind of boneheaded mistakes or things that you're seeing like, man, like we see this all day long, and these are like the 101s of like protecting your brand?
The number one thing is not being online, right? Thinking that they can continue to operate in a world where they don't have to operate online or share their story online. It's just not true. It's not true for your customers. It's not true when you're trying to hire people.
Yeah.
It's your ability to hire and retain employees is also based on what they find out about you online. The whole way a business operates. So the number one biggest mistake is not being online.
Gotcha.
Number two is the reviews. Not taking reviews seriously, not focused on getting positive reviews that are out there, not putting in the time and the effort to, dude, if you have a good business, you provide a good service, or you have a good product, they should want to leave you a review.
Yeah.
They should, right? All you have to do a lot of the times is ask. So a big mistake in brand slaughter is people just simply not going, Eric, would you leave me a 5-star Google review? Right.
Yeah.
That's a huge mistake. So one, not being online. People are online. You have to be where the people are. Two, not taking reviews seriously. And then three, being an ostrich and burying your head in the sand and thinking, oh, this is not important. It's never going to happen to me. And not having any crisis management plan. Been a business owner for a long time. I've been involved in a lot of businesses. Every business I've ever been involved in, and I can almost unequivocally say this about you, Eric, and I don't know, but I could say this. There has always been a moment where you went, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And something unexpected happened, and all of a sudden you're having to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's, people don't factor in that oh, shit moment when they think about how important their brand is. So one, an ostrich, not taking it seriously enough to have a crisis management plan in place for when the oh shit happens. Two, ignoring reviews. And three, just not being irrelevant online. If you're not online, you're irrelevant.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine in today's world that that's actually still happening, but I know it is. So does, John. We come across it still where people are still, either not there or they might as well not be there with what they've got there. It's so minimal that it's, and again, it's negatively impacting your brand because anybody that's going to go check out or do anything with anybody today does a search on them. And if you pop up and you look like you don't exist, there's two questions: either what you have, I don't want, or it's not real. Right. Those are kind of the two summaries you come to, right? Like this looks like bullshit, or this looks like bullshit. I don't want to deal with it. Right.
Yeah. Well, dude, people love our opinions. We love to judge, and we love our opinions, and we don't like to change our minds. And that is fact. And if you look at, I like to say, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Yeah. Right. Well, more often than not, your first impression is online these days. Yep. 68% of people believe their first impressions to be accurate, when actually 76% of the time they are. Yep. And then 65% of first impressions are made by what people see. What do they see when they Google you? That's the scariest question I can ask. What are they going to see when they Google you? And I'm kind of a data nerd, right? So there was a Cornell University study recently that was done, and they took two groups of people in. And group one, they sat in a room and they said, hey, we want to show you pictures of people, and we want your instantaneous impression of what type of person you think this person is. Group B was the people that were in the photos, and they went to these just different people and had them make different faces. Hey, smile, make a scowl, look angry, look happy, right? And they just took different pictures. And then they had no idea there was two groups, right? And so what they did is they got 1 second to look at this picture. They'd flip the picture on for 1 second and then they turn it off. And the person who saw that picture had to give an instant impression of what they thought that person was like in real life.
Yeah.
And the people that were happy, they had good impressions of the people that were mad and angry looking, like, oh, not a good person, not nice. 6 months later, they invite both groups to a mixer party in person. Granted, they've never met before. This is the first time they met. And they spent some time together and met and networked with people. And then they pulled the group A back and asked what their impressions are of the people they met. Guess what? After meeting these people in person, they still had the same impression that they did when they saw a picture of them for 1 second 6 months earlier.
Wow. So it sticks. It's really hard to overcome. Well, I think one of the things that's really cool, and you mentioned this, like one of the things that I think is the most powerful is the fact of controlling the narrative. Like anytime John or anybody else that I'm working with, we look at business stuff, there's always this aspect of what can we control and what can we not control, right? And anytime you're sitting yourself in a position where you're 100% responsive and reactive, it's a dangerous place to be, right? Because now I've put myself where the only action I'm going to take is if somebody punches me in the face, then I can whatever, at that point in time. But what you're talking about is being able to proactively control. And I think that's important for business leaders to let that terminology sink in a little bit, to control the narrative and proactively build that part of your brand.
Yeah. It's in another day in lifetime, a long time ago, before I jumped into my entrepreneurial journey, I was a police officer, and I had an attorney one time tell me, if you're defending, you're losing. If you're explaining, you're losing, right? And so, if you're in a reactive state where you're having to explain what this thing was or defend yourself from this thing, you're already losing. You've already lost. And so, being proactive, it comes down to, you've heard this a million times. People will buy from you when they know, like, and trust you. When this happens, you become influential. Well, remember what I said earlier is 74% of people have already decided who they're going to do business with based on the information that they found about them online. So the question then is, Eric, how will people know, like, and trust me if they never meet or speak with me? And that goes back to the number one mistake. You have to go where the people are. People are online. You have to be online. If you're not online, you're irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, I definitely agree. I mean, I can't imagine, like, we've come across this a number of different times. John, we're in multiple industries, as you well know, with the people we service. But I think I still go back to being, when I think of like controlling the narrative, right, and protecting the brand, like it's a matter of going back to that point you made earlier about PR and branding. I'm able to proactively address problems. There always are the oh shit moments, right? So when I have an oh shit moment, am I there waiting to be responsive to the oh shit moment, or am I proactively working with my brand reputation to deal with the oh shit moment? And those are two completely different things.
Oh yeah. And have you, if you've proactively done it and you've built a, barrier of protection, if you will, around it, maybe when that oh shit moment happens, it's not even a blip on the radar. Right.
Yeah.
Where some people, it may shoot right to the top and it's the number one thing that shows up on Google and it lives there. And now it defines who you are.
Yeah.
If you've proactively done this the right way and you've worked with a professional, somebody like us, or you have your own team, but you've spent the time and the effort to do it appropriately, that oh shit moment may not even be a blip on the radar. It may not even be something.
Yeah.
That's great. Dave, now, again, you've worked with multiple entrepreneurs, multiple brands, multiple businesses. You don't have to give names and specifics, but out of the years of experience you have, what is one of the most egregious forms of brand slaughter that you've witnessed? And what did you do to step in and help and intervene in that?
Oh, man. Well, some of it, some of this stuff can get pretty nasty. We are an international company, so we have clients all over the world. And there was a company that we were working with. He was very successful. Had multiple companies, owned soccer clubs, right, over in Europe. Huge multi-billion-dollar corporation. He was also involved in politics. Well, when things get political, man, it's just nasty. And some of the stories that would come out, it would just completely fabricated stories on both sides and how they would try and protect it. And they would do, it's just insane. So, some of the brand slaughter stuff is, not controlling the narrative or not addressing the narrative, right? So with kind of protecting some of our clients, I can't get into too many specifics, but you know, expecting something just to go away, right? Time heals all wounds. Unless it's online, right? If it's online, it's there forever. It kind of goes back to the Cornell University, right? Unless you do something to proactively make it go away, it's not going to.
Yeah. So when you're looking at Reputation Rhino and where you guys are today, and then you take a minute and look forward, like what are you guys trying to accomplish over the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Like what are those next iterations look like for you guys?
Yeah. So, continuing to reach down a little bit more, right? And what I mean by that is, as I mentioned earlier, reputation management used to be just for the elites, right? The Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies. And now it's becoming more and more common day. So we want to help, online reputation management be more of a normal conversation that people have. And you got to think, how far down can it go? And when I say down, I mean, how far down the rung of ladder, where can we make an impact to help people? And down to high school athletes who are trying to get a college scholarship.
Yeah.
Right. How can we help high school athletes look the best they can from these college recruiters, to be able to help them secure a position for a scholarship or even admission into a college.
Yeah.
The everyday, I think building your personal brand, if you've watched it at all, that's 5 years ago, it was almost not a thing. Now it's almost like it's just, everybody's saying it. Everybody needs to build a personal brand. The Kardashians came along and now everybody needs a personal brand. Yep. But it's true. It's who we are as a society. And now we're in a society where you've got nothing but influencers. You have people that had no, and I don't want to diminish influencers, but no relative skill. Like they didn't provide a service or a knowledge to a company for money in exchange. They just had some sort of influential ability online and they created videos. And now people are following them.
Right.
And so how we react as a society, how we look at things as a society, having a personal brand is more important now more than ever.
Yeah.
And like me, I have my own personal brand outside of the company because I have to. Because one of the first things people do is Google me, right? They'll look at a company that I'm involved with and they're going to, who's Dave Fulk? And so not having a personal brand is just terrible. So helping people get a personal brand built, down to like continuing to just make it common day practice, where, parents for a high school, student can afford it. Yeah. We're spending a lot of money on technology right now, for rep rank and audits, where somebody can go in almost like you think of a credit score. Like you put in your information, you get your credit score back. It tells you where you're doing good or bad, where you can go in and with our algorithms, basically give you a rank on how your online reputation stacks up and what you can do to fix it. And, have an audit where it literally goes and spits out what you need to do to address it. So where you can do it individually, or you can hire a company like us to take care of it for you.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting point with the seeing like that you are the brand type thing that's kind of evolved over the last, 10 years or longer. But it got me thinking about, my daughter's graduating college and I know your son's getting ready to head in, I think, and I watch him post his stuff on soccer and the stuff he's doing, building his brand, doing his thing. And, but you're absolutely spot on with like, if you think about it now, like colleges, even some of the private schools and high schools, club sports, societies, jobs, like people now go to your social media and Google you and things like that to see what's going on with you. They don't just take your resume anymore. They don't just take your application anymore. They go do those things and your online reputation becomes, quote, who you are. And all of a sudden something you did or happened or somebody said about you 2 years ago, if you're not having any brand management going on your online, you may apply for a college or your kid may apply for college and get turned down because of something that was online about them. And so I see there's a big value in that. I think it's, Ray, I think Ray Perez and I were talking at one point in time about some branding stuff. And, Ray, I think had a really cool point, which was especially for guys and people most people in today's world don't join one company and work there 65 years anymore and then leave, right? Like that almost never happens anymore. Most people are 2, 3, 5 years, start their own business, do this, do that. We live in that kind of economy. But the one thing that follows you everywhere you go, no matter what company you're with or own or start or whatever it is, to your point, is Dave Fulk. That brand. And so you can either build an asset that you're picking up and moving each time or leveraging each time, or a liability each time. And it creates an uphill battle. So are you seeing, like, to the point that you guys are moving, what I'm hearing you saying, I guess, is you guys are seeing that become more and more prevalent and more important on an individual basis, not just a corporate basis?
Out of necessity. Yeah. Right. And I think we've talked a lot, this is primarily a business show. Most people probably listen are entrepreneurs, but I think if we talk about this for a minute, that point that Ray makes is a freaking great one, right? It's a Fulking great one.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
It is Fulking awesome. So it's a great point because people again, they think, oh, reputation management, that's for a Fortune 100 company. Oh, it's a Fortune 500 company. Oh, it's this, it's an entrepreneur, it's a business owner. It's no longer the case that a personal brand is only important to those people, right? It's important for the high school athlete who wants to, or the high school, student, not even athlete, who wants to go to college. It's important for the college, your daughter, somebody who's graduating college, they're going to apply for all these jobs. There's only so many jobs out there. There's not enough jobs to even fill the amount of college graduates that there are. So let's say we have 10 college graduates applying for the same job. How does that one person stand out? What does their personal brand say about them that the other 9 don't?
Yeah.
Let alone the person who you can work in corporate your whole life and be just fine. And that's great. And that's amazing for some people, right? And they want to climb the corporate ladder, or maybe they don't want to stay at the same company, but they always want to just be an employee of. And that's great. But again, it's so much more than just your resume. It's so much more. It's who is this individual? Who is this person? And that's what your personal brand is. It tells the story of who you are, what you believe in, what are your core values, and stuff like that. Like if you go to my website, I try and break me down. I'm broken down into 4 pillars, right? Of who I am. I'm a maverick, right? I'm an investor, I'm a CEO, and I'm a family man, right? I'm a husband and a wife. And those are like my 4 personas of who I am. And people can get a better understanding of who Dave Fulk is. And that's what people want these days. They want more substance and authenticity to who somebody really is.
Yeah. And that's his catchphrase, by the way. He's Fulking awesome.
That's great.
So, yeah. I still text him that periodically, or whenever we're talking, I like bringing it up because it's just like, I'm like a little kid that feels like you're saying a bad word, but you're not. So
it's fun,
such a great branding deal though.
The best part is, well, that's funny. I use it all the time when I get on stage and I talk branding. And I go, there's one Fulking speaker you're going to remember from this whole event. You can't not forget who I am now, right? It's a stick. But it also, when I go on PG rated stages, it allows me to like get a few wide eyeballs, right? Because I'm not cussing, but I am.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned getting on stage. I wanted to bring up something because I think there's a big part of you, then we'll probably get a little more personal now too, if you don't mind. Yeah. But there's a big part of you that like loves to just live life. Like you're a big personality. I like you said, you got your 4 pillars, but there's a lot of stuff about you that you just like to go out and meet people, do stuff. And so you've got something you were sharing with me about. So you're gonna take your first run at stand-up comedy coming up, right?
Yeah, coming up in a few weeks here. Yeah.
And so maybe share with the listeners a little bit like, well, first, why? Because anybody like it's one thing to get on stage and talk, right? I mean, that's not easy. And I know you do that all the time, but it's probably easier than it used to be for you because you're probably like I am. Once you get up so much, it's not a big deal. But stand-up comedy is a real science and art. It is not you get up and tell a knock joke and then walk off stage. So, I mean, like, what the hell? What made you want to do that?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've realized is, you grow when you find yourself in uncomfortable and unfamiliar situations. So I constantly try and put myself in situations where I'm uncomfortable, right? It comes back to the saying, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Good friend of mine, Steve Sims, just wrote a book, the Go for Stupid, right? And he's talking about just go do something stupid. And so this was a go for stupid moment for me. That is uncomfortable. I've never done stand-up comedy. I have no training in it whatsoever, other than the short 6 weeks, a couple of lessons that I get with this guy before I go up on stage to do it. And, it's going to be funny one way or the other. You're going to laugh at my jokes, or it's going to be so bad that you're not going to not be able to laugh. But either way, whoever's in the audience, you're going to get a laugh out of it. And look, let's put some context on it, Eric. It's not doing comedy in my driveway for like the neighborhood. It is, we've got the Tampa Improv Theater, the iconic Tampa Improv Theater, completely booked out, 360 seats, and that sumbitch is going to be full, right? Yeah. So I'm going to do my debut in front of a full crowd of different people. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So there's starving comics that would kill to get in front of 360 people. Dave is fulking around and having a full house at his first debut. So maybe a new pillar goes on the website next, father,
that's
husband,
a fifth persona, yeah.
Stand-up comedian. So I think that's a valuable, I think it's cool you're trying something new. That's on to bring it up. I think it's neat to get outside that box. John, did you have something? I kind of jumped in.
Yeah, I mean, what at the end of the day, like, what makes you tick? What's your why?
Man, my family is my huge why, right? I've been married 17 years, going on 18, to my beautiful wife Brandy. I've got 3 amazing kids, and man, they just that is my why, right? People are like, oh, what are your hobbies? I'm like, I have 3 kids. So my hobbies are their hobbies right now. They're 15, 13, and 11, and they're all in extracurriculars. So I don't have days off, right? I may work from 6 to 6, put in 12 hours, working, but then from 6 to 10, I'm driving around at extracurriculars. One's going to soccer, one's going to dance, one's going to volleyball. It doesn't matter. We've always got something going on, every weekend. And so that's what makes me tick right now. And I love life, as Eric put it. I love to have fun. I just love life. And probably close to a decade ago, I had a real transformative experience from a gratefulness journey, right? And I think if you talk to a lot of different entrepreneurs and stuff like that, the power of positivity and just being grateful. And, I just love to do anything and have fun of it. Somebody asks what kind of day I'm having, I always respond, it's the best day of my life. It is. Today is the best day of my life. I'm a 1%er. I just want to make tomorrow 1% better than it was today.
Yeah. Big fan of Atomic Habits. I mean, that's one of the core, beliefs in that book. So I know you said something happened that kind of made you have that shift. Prior to that, were you still the optimistic, positive individual? Or
oh God, I mean, you talk about, back when I was a police officer, it's hard not to be cynical, right? You see society at its worst, right? You have to show up and go see stuff and do with stuff and deal with stuff that the rest of the world, just doesn't even understand or comprehend. And you see people in their worst moments, right? And so you're continuously exposed to that. So it's, oh man, the glass is only half full, or half empty, right? It's already half gone type of thing. And so it was, a journey to come out of that. No, I was on the polar opposite side for quite a while. And then as I just continued to grow, read books, right? So the biggest thing, John, for me, the awakening is cracking books back open. And if you're not reading, if you're not consuming knowledge, man, it's too easy not to. But with Audible, Audible, and one of the little hacks that I have is anytime I get a book, I download it on Audible, I buy the hard copy, and I got a highlighter. And because we learn through seeing, hearing, and doing. And so what I do is I let Audible read the book to me, and I highlight certain parts of the book. So I'm seeing it visually on the page. I'm hearing it audibly and I'm doing something with a highlighter. So my absorption rate and retention rate have just skyrocketed as I go through stuff like that.
Well, that's powerful. Myself, I do something similar. I'll buy the actual book, get the Audible version, but my excuse is, if I'm in a car, I could just continue along through Audible and then I'll pick up when I'm back at the house or back at the office or what have you. But I think you're right there. People learn by seeing, doing, actually getting your hands on it. So that's a pretty powerful statement.
Well, when I'm in the car, that's when I listen to the Brand Slaughter podcast.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank goodness he doesn't just ram right into the bridge.
Yeah. Is that your opening line for your stand-up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And Eric's not even going to be there.
Yeah. Pie throwing and all that kind of stuff. Well, cool. Well, Dave, it's been great having you on the show. And first, congratulations on all the success with Reputation Rhino. I know I've got I feel like a front row seat, at least to what you guys are doing and the amazing team you're putting together. Because we didn't really dive into that, and maybe we take a second before we close out, because I think it's important for people to know Reputation Rhino is not Dave Fulk and a bunch of AI. There is a team involved too. Maybe talk before we go, because that's a big piece of it. You've put a really great, talented group of people together too, who, at least from my perspective, here's what I'll say about your brand, right? This is the narrative that I see, is that you've got a dynamic, intelligent, passionate group of people who are all in about what you guys are doing and about what you guys are creating. So maybe share a little bit about how you built that, because I think that was a big piece of you taking that CEO spot was, hey, man, I'm going to come in and build something dynamic.
Yeah, no, man, I appreciate you saying that. I cannot say enough good things about my team. And it comes down to me. Culture is what you tolerate. Culture is not bringing your dog to work or, having Skittles on the counter for people to eat. Culture is what you tolerate. So as a CEO, like, what I tolerate and what I expect, very high. And I only allow A players to work with me. And an A player when you have one. And it's when you start surrounding yourself with a group of A players who are motivated, intelligent, get shit done type of mentality people, right? They start to just create this ethos of that. When I'm not even around, I don't even have to be there. Yeah. And they'll hold each other accountable. Right. And so I'm not having to sit there. I don't crack a whip and I don't lead like that. Right. I lead through motivation and positivity and supporting them. My goal that I see is I work for them. Right. I work for them. They don't work for me. So I have a different mentality in leadership. That could be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
Celebrate and inspire them. Don't just freaking celebrate your employees like on their birthday or their 1-year anniversary, right? Celebrate them on every day. It should be part of your DNA and culture. Richard Branson said, amazing. Train people so well that they can leave you, but treat them so well that they never will. And that is huge, right? I'm constantly training people, trying to get them to expand their knowledge, sending them to AI conferences, Six Sigma, you name it. But treating them so well that they don't want to leave. So I really put a high value on only working with A players. And so you're right. We have a huge team, and we have an international team too. That's the other really cool part is we have people in all time zones all over the world. So the hardest thing to do is setting up a team call where everybody can be on it, because we have some people in Israel, we have some people on the West Coast, and then, in different countries throughout and all over the US. But yeah, it's we got an amazing, solid team here that is going to help you, whether you're an individual, a doctor, small to medium business, or a multi-billion-dollar corporation that's looking to, work on your brand.
Awesome. That's great. So, it goes to show, what we talk about all the time, which is, ensuring you have the right talent, techniques, technology, and togetherness, right, to build the brand and protect your brand are kind of those key components. So it's, again, congrats on that, man, because I think you guys have the DNA and the formula and then the service and product for today and tomorrow, really, for the people that are out there. So it's a huge value add. So if people need to get in touch with you or with Reputation Rhino, what's the best way to do that?
Easiest way to get in touch with me is super simple. Just go to my website, davefulk.com, DAVEFULK.com, right? Get you right to me, tell you about me. You can book a call, everything you need right there. Reputation Rhino, you can just go to the Reputation Rhino website, reputationrhino.com. Worst case scenario, just go to davefulk.com and I'll get you in touch with the Reputation Rhino. So to get in touch with myself or Reputation Rhino if you want, and all of our discovery calls are free, right? I'm going to put you on the phone with a highly trained individual, an online reputation management specialist who's going to be able to look at your situation and customize it for you and tell you what needs to be done, if we can even help you. Right. And you'll walk away with an understanding of what you need to personally address, how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost. And none of that is always free.
Awesome. Good to know. Like I said, we highly recommend that if you are a business owner or individual, like Dave said, reach out to Dave, reach out to Reputation Rhino, be proactive with what you're doing to protect your business. And so with Dave, again, we appreciate having you on the show today. I think it's been amazing. Best of luck to you. Congratulations on all you're doing. We hope everybody else has enjoyed the show today. If you have, we'd love to hear your comments. So comment, like, share, and ultimately subscribe to Preventing Brand Slaughter. We'll see you next time on another amazing episode.
That's all for this episode of Preventing Brand Slaughter. We do wish you limitless business success as you perfect new ways of protecting your brand through stellar employee retention, killer customer experience, and unprecedented sales and marketing. Get more valuable advice on brand slaughter prevention that helps you avoid messing up your brand by listening to more exciting discussions at lec4u.com. That's LEC4YOU.com. Never miss another episode, and be sure to get your business-savvy friends to listen as well. We hope to see you on the next one. Thank you for listening.